Greetings, travelers. I am the Lorekeeper, bound to the tales of forgotten realms. These are the fragments I have gathered, myths, memories, and murmurs from realms beyond. This is Echoes of Elsewhere. The day the deep breached, as recorded in the Echo Tome of Skyharbor Roost by Archivist Morellian, transcribed from the spoken account of Brannick No Rope Vel, survivor of the Sunderpit breach. Now what you're about to hear isn't written in your clean consortium manuals. This ain't in the guild's dive charts or marked on your brass maps. This is the truth from the dust, straight from the fault lines below, from where the deep breathes. Now you little cloud surfers think you're ready for the deep. Think your gliders will carry you through the Gloam Rift and back up before your tanks run dry? And maybe they will. Or maybe they won't. But let me tell you about the breach. About the thing we woke. Long before the era of floating cities and lay-wind sails, the world was whole. One crust, one sea, one sky. The ancients, they say, carved spires into the clouds and walked roads of songlight. But power, true power, well, that lives beneath. And it was beneath where they dug too deep, or prayed too loud, or simply made themselves known. No one agrees on how the shattering began, only that it did. Whole continents tore like parchment. Skybergs rose from the ocean floors, and gravity lost its loyalty. Civilization collapsed. What remained drifted upwards, clinging to pockets of stabilized ether called sky roots. These roots now anchor the floating isles, invisible ley vines threading each city like the marionette strings through the stormed sky. And below is the Craglands, twisted, sun-starved valleys, void-choked chasms, and titanic scars in the world's skin where light goes to die. To survive, the people of the new sky worlds did what they always done. They adapted. They built Skyharbors along the undersides of their cities. They trained divers, part miner, part adventurer, part lunatic, to plunge beneath the safety of the clouds, tethered by gliders, cables, and arcane rigs. The Crag divers became lifelines to the old world's ruins and the new world's riches. We went down in teams. We brought back metal, spellglass, relicite, ancient bonewood, lost magics. And sometimes, even the horrors. We divers keep the cities afloat with the things we find. And every diver knows the one rule you never break. Don't wake the deep. It was 25 cycles ago. We were contracted by the Glass Consortium, greedy bastards with bright smiles and deep vaults. They had a site in the Sunderpits, just past the Ember Verge. Not a standard dive. The rift there was hot, almost breathing, like a lung just beneath the stone. But the payout? It was absurd. Triple the rate for raw rallicite. Jewel-bright, soul-thirsty stone you don't touch with bare hands. Dangerous stuff. We knew something was off, but hey, coin sings a sweet song, don't it? But no one told us the mine had roots in the vein lands. We dropped in like usual, 5 of us. Myself, Bexon the rigsmith, Laughin' Nara, Doman the scout, and Ket, who never blinked. We were tethered to the Whispering Gale, a sloop-class sky skimmer held aloft by 4 lay sails and an ether stone core. We set down Standard gear and all. Nothing fancy, you know. Figured it was just another job. First hour, pretty routine. Plenty of scrap, minor spore growths, fractured support beams, and a few skitter worms. You know, common rift zone sites. But that second hour, something changed. Cracks in the strata wider than I've ever seen. Heat, pulsating heat, like breath coming from below. Then the light dimmed, though we were miles from sundown. The walls began to pulse, not shake, but throb, with rhythm. Kind of like a heartbeat, but it was off. Nara said she heard singing. Ket murmured prayers to gods none of us knew, and Dooman, he found the vein. But it wasn't relicite. It wasn't even a mineral. It was flesh. Cracked stone that bled black fire. We called it the wound. And then it opened an eye. No lid, no iris. Just endless red, ringed with flickering runes that seemed older than tongues. It almost looked through us. And then came the note. A frequency so low and unbearable that it sank into our skulls and shuddered half the mine. We lost 6 that day. My leg was the least of it. Bexon died on impact as the mine collapsed. Nara vanished, disintegrated into ash and glass from some flash. And Ket, well, he leapt from the cliff's edge, screaming about fire beneath the skin of the world calling to him. Dooman and I barely made it to the surface as the whispering gale descended on an emergency lift. We cut our cables, blew the ballast, and ascended into the ley winds. We didn't know right then, but the ship took a wound in the hull from the scream, and 3 of the crew fell as a result. What we did know was the rift opened. Something moved beneath. Something whose shadow stretched upward and cast itself into the clouds. We didn't awaken a beast. We disturbed a being. A Leviathan of the underslumber, they say. One of the 7 buried before the skyfall, when the gods shattered the crust and raised the isles. The Diver's Codex now lists it as Tethyr-Gol, the Worldwound Leviathan, though some old texts call him by different names. He who drinks the root, the breath beneath the crust, or the dreaming shatterer. Dreaming. That's about it. It's not dead, but it's not living either. It's almost like it's sleeping, slumbering in a way that the mind can't grasp. It doesn't hunt, it doesn't rage, it just waits. And now, the sky isles are starting to drift oddly. The ley winds blow out of rhythm. Certain floating cities hear the note in their crystal engines. Some harbors are reporting missing routes. The sky routes are severed, drifting dead weight into the craglands below. The deep stirs. Something was breached that day that can't be undone. I tell you this not to scare you, but to prepare you. There are voices in the deep. Not all who dive return, and not all who return come back themselves. If you're going down into the crags, if you're chasing relicite or fame or the whisperings of some buried gods, remember this. Not everything below wants to kill you. Some of it just wants to be seen. And there we are. Another echo fades. Until we find the next. Safe travels, adventurers.